Hi students, good morning. How are you all? Fine. Please turn on your video, all of you once. Turn on your videos. Can you hear me? Only thumbs up I can see. Nandini. Okay, Vignesh. Akshita. Good, good. Venkatesh. Nandini. Please turn on your video. Okay, fine. Tejashwini, Rishik. Good morning once again. And we are in the 5th chapter, Forest, Using and Protecting. We have discussed about different types of forests in the last session. Is it? Sri Satya, why all are gloomy? Can I see smile on your face? Okay, good. Very good. Sai Sruti, how are you? Okay. Okay. Welcome to Sanvi Learning Services. So let us discuss, continue the same topic about forest and using and protecting. When before we enter into our session, let us quick check about the tribal people. Whatever you learned in the previous classes, actually different types of forests we have discussed. Today we are going to discuss about tribes in the forest. Tribes, different types of tribes in the forest. Already, dear students, already have learned about different types of tribal groups who lives in the forest. Generally, like Konda Reddis, Koyas, Chenjus. So these are the different types of tribal people live in the forest. Okay, you can see in your surrounding, like generally, why do we call them as a tribe? Because they are an indigenous people and they have great knowledge about that forest area, and they have unity among them, and many unique characters we can see within the tribe, religious, customs, traditions. And in the same way, you have learned about the threats or dangerous situations, what are the dangerous situations they face in their day-to-day life. Like nowadays, government restricted, many restrictions from government, like usage on forest, collecting edible foods and like timber, whatever it may be. So from the forest, so many restrictions they are facing nowadays because our usage of forest products, especially nowadays, outsiders, especially people living in the outskirts of the forest, they are utilizing these people, like forcing them to cut down the trees and distribute them. And one more, paper mills, or exploitation on bamboo. This all we have discussed. Okay, so bamboo plants or that wood, they distribute to the paper mill owners. They also use that. Okay, these all the and different occupations of the people, like weaving basket, big rearing. Okay, these all you learn in the 6th and 7th classes. Okay, now let us see the tribes in the forest, how their lifestyle, and some more topics you have to discuss about the tribal societies. Okay, so here I hope everyone can see the screen. Chapter 5, Forest, Using and Protecting. And see, just an introduction before we enter into our topic. Characteristics of tribes have well demarcated geographical territory. It means they have their own area for their activities and lived in forest or hilly mountainous areas. So generally we know the people who are living Penugolu village, already you have learned in the last academic year, right? Yes, Penugolu village. Can you remember that? Yes, that village actually located in the hilly region, and a group of people who live in that villages we call tribes. So they lived generally in the hilly region. It means like that area is not suited for human habitat, even though these people living there and they depends on forest and are isolated or semi-isolated from other social groups. This means is indigenous people, we can say. There is no connection to outer world. This all once upon a time. Now situation changed because these people getting many opportunities in the outer world, like job especially forest department and forest officials. You can see many people working in that. So these type of changes happen, even though some years ago these people had like isolated, it means indigenous people, they have no any connection to outer world. And next is socio cultural activities, have their own culture, cosmology. It means, religious activity like astrology, astronomy, decision, nowadays also we have many beliefs. Before we house constructing house, we may approach some of the astrologists about the place and everything like that. Many beliefs and culture, belief system, their own god. See, have their own language without any script. They have language, but there is no script. Script means there is no writing, there is no letters or anything for writing. Only they communicate with their language. Okay, they communicate, but there is no proper script for them to write. And next, symbol societies with no rigid social stratification. There is no discrimination in the society. All great unity we can see there. And strong belonging to their community and consider themselves the sons of soil, children of soil or children of earth, mother goddess. Okay, so this is a type of socio culture. And economically self-sufficient, cling to primitive technology and lack monetary economy and money. Okay, there is no. And next is department, so depend on barter system. There is no transaction in like money transaction, barter system, nothing but exchanging goods for goods. If you give an apple, another person will give banana. Okay, so like that, goods exchange we can see. There is no money, economical transactions or money deal, and more rely on earning today's need and meal. Only for today. They think there is no even you people who are living in the outer world. So we have many thoughts, because how can we earn money? How can we live tomorrow? And like savings and many thoughts and things we have. But these people, they have no such type of thinking. Whatever we have today, they satisfy with that. Whatever they get from the forest, they satisfy with that. Do not bother about future requirements. Okay, there is no thinking or goal or aim or anything, because today, like morning they wake up and go for hunting or collecting edible fruits from the forest. They have it and they happily live in the forest. Okay, so next here, political system. We earlier had a stateless system, that is without any tribal chief. Olden days, there is no chief. It means head of the village, we can say, like sarpanch or upasarpanch, and manage law and order through family and kinship ties. Family matters, then and there they will solve. And later what happened, you have learned in the previous classes, Panch and Patla system. Panch and Patla. Can you remember that? Panch and Patla system in the tribal groups. Yes. A head of the village we call Panch. The person who look after the village. And later state them king can select a tribal chief. Later they selected a person as a chief. And today this autonomy lost and they are part of local administration. At present, they are also under democratic system. They have elections. Okay, many different activities is going on in the tribal group. And now they have a chief like Sarpanch, head of the village. And all people have right to select a correct person. In olden days, one village headman. And even today also you can see many village like headman only rule this particular region. Okay, so in addition of that, one sarpanch and elected, like through election, they will also select a person to look after that village. Okay, so religion have their own deities and belief system, God. Okay, so they have their own, suppose forms of religious are generally animism. So what is that? Worship of soul and ancestors. Okay, so what their soul in the Atma we call in Telugu, ancestors, dead persons from our family, grandpa, grandma or something, they worship them. And animatism, so what is that? Worship of any non-living bodies like stone, idol worship, like stone. Okay, so next is totemism, what is that? Worship of any tree or animal founding ancestors, trees, animals. Okay, naturism, worship of nature like river or wood. So all, if you see this, you can understand they worship each and every living and non-living things. Am I right? Yes, animals, trees, these all religious activities. They have some celebrations also. They offer something to them. Different types of dance practices you can see in the forest. Did you observe any time any of the tribal activity or tribal life which you can see in your surrounding? Did you observe any time? Did anyone? Do you have any tribal societies around you? No? Okay, at least hereafter. And Sri Shruti, Sai Shruti, you observed, I think, you have many tribal groups in your surrounding. Yes or no? Even Kolam Guda, Kola people, so their lifestyle. Is it? So many different types of tribal groups and their traditions and their beliefs. And now you have to compare with your religious practices. Many practices still you are following, like worshipping ancestors. Are you doing that? Yes, absolutely. Because yearly once or twice, once we offer something to our grandpa, grandma. This type of religious activities still we are following. We copy it. It means this all our ancestors, we can say. Am I right? Yes. Our ancestors, earliest people. That earliest people like different form, different communities. Janapadas, Mahajanapadas, that all terms you compare with this, because group of people who live in the Ganga and Yamuna valleys, Janapadas, later it forms a Mahajanapadas, a group of societies, and that group of societies again split in different part. And some people migrate, like live in the forest. So we have connection to this all, because this all our ancestors. Many religious practices which you can see in your family or in your surrounding related to this concept, because worship of any non-living bodies like stone worship, especially Hindu religion, you can see. Am I right? Many stone idols we have in the temple. We like feel that is a god, like what we call Vishnu or Shiva or whatever it might be. And animals and trees, animals also. Cow. Yeah, am I right? Cow. Still we are following. Cow is an animal, like we will worship a cow. We will offer food. And many villages we will not hurt and such type of animals, and worship of rat and cow and what we call many animals. And trees also, some sort of neem tree sometimes we worship. And wood idols, and the same way rivers. And because these all worship, don't like feel that we are not doing this all. In our societies also, in our society, we are also following many worship mode of worship from these tribal groups. Okay, so this all worship we can see in categories, because some religious activities now, Hindu religious follows this all. Okay, so now let us see the tribal village and their life. See, this is their life, a group, a unity you can see here, all together, very happy. Morning they go for hunt, collecting many things from the forest. Okay, arrow, axe, whatever it may be. And ladies, like water available from there, they may collect. In the last academy, previous classes, you already learned about how they collect the water from the faraway places, and nearly half an hour. Penugolu village, you take an example. From in that village, they carry water from very far away, and they walk with like half an hour to reach their village. Okay, so this type of when it like you see this picture, you can understand their life. See children, everything like sitting in front of the home, a small hut. It's a great unity, closer each and every home, like a slum we can say. Okay, a house, and all the houses very closer. Okay, and the roof you see with grass and all. Why do they construct this type of houses? Because we can like see that many natural calamities in the forest, like wind, soil erosion. So that time it may that natural calamities may destroy these all things, because it's very like indigenous, because forest area itself, you know, it's like a forest ecosystem. We have animals attack, maybe yes, many problems they are facing their day-to-day life. Is it? Yes. Okay, now see some of the important, like India. When it comes to India, about 461 tribes distributed throughout India, it seems. and constitute 8.1% of total population of India. Census 2001 census it is. It may decrease or increase 2020, 21. So 21 or 11. So population wise, they have given gone 8 lakhs bills. This all overall India. When we see our country with different types of tribal groups and their population, you can see on the screen. Okay, if you want, take a screenshot of this because you can understand different types of tribal people who live in there and their celebrations. You can see in this picture. See great unity and drums and a group of like some dance practices. I think in the left side you can see their dress style. You see a same color dress. Okay, so we finally, before we enter into the textual concept, we can conclude here one thing. Like we can say because this type of dance practice still we are following, but our dress style may change. Am I right? Nowadays we have very different types of like modern dresses, even though these dance practices just convention. Here we have cinematic dance or what we call folk dance and different types of dances, but this all origin from here. Is it their costumes? And sometimes this type of dance practices we may perform in our area. Yes, see the feather peacock and that drum and whatever things and some garland and some decorations and the faces like they color like animal. Fine. So now let us enter into the textual concept. If you have content book, please open and see. It is difficult to imagine forests in our country without the people who live in them and use them. Forests provide the critical resources for the poor in our state to make a living. Very few people in Telangana collect minor forest produce called non-timber forest produce and sell them in the local market for earnings and living. And you would have made a long list of forest produce that people collect, but the complete list is much longer with about more than 60 items on it. Of the people who depend upon the forest for their livelihood. The tribal people are most important. For thousands of years, tribal people have lived in these forests, protected them and earned their livelihood for them. See from them. So what they, like introduction part, what they have given, because forest, especially if we approach tribes also, they are not ready to sell any timber. Timber is wood. Okay, forest wood is a major like source of our like home. When you construct a home, you need many different type of furniture. This wood where we get from the forest. Okay, human needs increased, so they are not selling it. It's a very few people in Telangana collect minor forest produce and sell them in the local market for earning for living. And the same way, you would have made a long list of produce that we get from the forest, because we have many like honey, we can say, wood, we can say, bamboo shoots, some like 5 to 10 items we can say, but more than 60 items available it seems, including medicinal plants. Okay, this knowledge enlighten the tribal people. It means give great importance to them. Even now, whatever science or whatever the medicines available outside, like these people contribution is great. Even from our science, we can say science in the sense, you know, like Charaga, Susruta, and Taraga Samhita, Susruta Samhita, these all like medicines related to surgery and medicines, even though that medicines prepared from Ayurvedic. Am I right? Ayurvedic in the sense, like the medicines which are available from the plants, that conversion we can see in our market, which we get from the medical shop, whatever the tablets. There is no permanent cure for these all medicines. When we opt this type of medicines, we can cure for long time or long life. So these are the importance we have for the tribal people. The same way forest protects. At the same time, even today, more than 60% of the forest of Telangana area where tribal people live. See, 60% of the forest Telangana, please underline in your concept book, Telangana are in area where tribal people live. Similarly, about 60% of tribal people in Telangana today live in the forest. Okay, 60% of tribal people, because there is no restriction. Restrictions will be there, but even though government is not sending them out of the forest, that we can see here, giving some opportunities to them. They voluntarily migrating to other outer world. I have told you in the beginning, many tribal persons or tribes now living along with the us. Am I right? For education, their livelihood, like job. So many tribal people today living with us with different professions. And how do the tribal people use the forest? Yes, you may remember how people of Penagolo use the forest and around them. Penagolo village, I have given an example here. Beginning, we have discussed about Penagolo village for Podu cultivation. You know what is Podu cultivation? Can you remember that? What do you mean by Podu cultivation? Podu cultivation, shifting cultivation, we can say. Podu cultivation, nothing but shifting cultivation or Jum cultivation already have learned. You can remember that. Shifting cultivation, another term. Podu in the sense shifting cultivation. They start, they cut the trees of a particular patch of land, and after that they start cultivation there. After 1 year or 2 years, they shift that place to another place. Shift from that place to another place. At the same time, they allow the previous place to grow some plants. They plant some plants and leave the patch. And they cultivate in another place. That type of cultivation generally we call Podu cultivation. Okay, when we discuss about Penagolo village, we have clearly discussed about this. Their Podu cultivation. What is Podu cultivation? Please note it down. If you get a question, you must shifting cultivation. Podu cultivation is nothing but shifting cultivation. The tribal people change their place from one place to another place for cultivation. Generally, we call it as Podu cultivation. A collection of forest produce like food items, fruits, tubers, a roti like potato, you know, that type of tubers we got fruits, and items for sale like beedi leaves, medicinal plants, bamboo, tamarind. These all items. Please note down. You may have a question. Write a list of the forest product. So you can include these all beedi leaves available, medicinal plants, bamboos, tamarind. If you have any connection or close contact to any tribal people, you can ask them and gather some more. And unlike in plain villages, tribal people don't have the notion of private property in land, and all clan members use the forest with the context of the village elders. See here, their usage of forest also clearly they have mentioned. I have told you they have a head of the village. That head decide how much land a family or a person can use for cultivation. Okay, not like us, because we have our own property and we have like a money transaction here, because if you want to purchase a land, we can give money and purchase it. But here what you can see, they have no particular land for their own use, because elder person, a village elders, each family has customary right over the land they cultivate and will shift to in the coming years. Podu cultivation, when you hear about that, you can understand, because they have their own land for cultivation. They will shift. Or the village headman may allow them some place there only they can do cultivation. Other than that, there is no option. There we can see the unity and unity of the people, because they have great, without unity, these all things won't work out. Even if suppose just an example, in your village, your land, some like one day your sarpanch or someone going to inform you that today onwards there is no their own property or land, and we are going to give like based on the population of the family, and give back all the land. Will you ready to give back? No, we may go for agitation. Like it's my own, I have document everything. But here there is no proper document or the proper proof for their own land. They are living in the forest, that's it. They are using the forest, they are collecting different things, because this is not their own. Because of that, this is all possible. Podu cultivation or collecting fruits or tubers or whatever it may be from the forest, or grazing animals, catching, hunting. This all happens. Okay, so, and here, see, since the Podu keeps shifting every few years, there is no fixed record of ownership of land. See the same point here. There is no fixed ownership of land. Also, when population increases and few families are formed, the village elders gave them permission to clear new plot of land. Before the British rule, the tribal people treated the forest as their own. It was sacred land to them, and they used it without causing damage to it or the animal in it. Even when they hunted for an animal or cleared the forest for Podu field, they ensured the regeneration of animals and trees. Thus they worked after as well as used the forest, just as a peasant family or poor family takes care of its farmers. Okay, take care of its field. So here you see, this is the condition of the uh, tribes. See here, like when population increases and new families are formed, the village elders give them permission to clear new plots of land before the British rule. How the situation? Whole entire forest. Nowadays they have it. Before Britishers, in the sense, you know, once upon there is no village headman or a person to control the village. Now they have. Before independence, how the city, before like British rule, and all entire forest they can use as they wish. They live like nomads, we can say, roaming all over the, like everywhere, hunting animals. And even though they have great respect on them, even animals or trees or forest, they won't disturb the forest. Or after, once if they start Odoo cultivation, they allow forest like grow the same place. So regeneration they have given, ensure the regeneration of animals and trees. Regeneration is nothing but they are allowing them to grow there. Even if they hunt animal, even 100 animal, they worship 100 animal and have it. The same procedure we are also following nowadays. Sometimes you may sacrifice goat in front of the god. Where you can bring goat or some other animals to the temple, cut there, after worshipping you have it. The same procedure you can see, they worship and after have, and other than their use, it means they are like, if they feel hungry, they hunt, share, eat, no wastage. Unnecessary, they won't disturb the animals or plants in the forest. That is the greatness of these people. Okay. So during the last 200 years, after the establishment of British rule in India, the tribal people gradually lost their control and rights over the forest. What happened? See, since then, forests were rapidly cut down. This happens in two ways. Firstly, there was a great demand for wood for various purposes like building, railways, ships, factories, mines, houses, furniture, etc. Similarly, many industries like pepper mill and needed large quantities of pulpwood. As a result of this pressure, large tracts of forest were cut down and wood was sold out. See here, in many areas, forests were cut down to create plantations of tea, coffee, or rubber, and later on of quick growing trees like eucalyptus or bamboos. Thus, the total area under forests got reduced greatly. See, after the British rule, see here, during the last 200 years, after establishment of British rule, what happens is, they forced them to cut down or over exploitation on natural resources, we can say. Forest, they are cutting down the forest. Okay, so great demand for various purposes like even constructing new buildings, railways, ships, factories, mines, houses, furniture, mining, you know, digging the earth for getting different types of minerals, coal mining, you know. And the same way constructing houses, they demand, because each and every outer world, outside is understood the value of the forest wood and their forest animals or whatever it may be, forest producer. So they started asking them to cut it and give, and it led for degrading or decreasing the forest or reducing or reduced greatly the forest area. They are not planting. In many areas, forests were cut down to create plantations of tea plantations. Planting tea plantation, you know how the terrace method, step by step, hilly region, you can see tea plantation, coffee, rubber, later on, of quick growing trees like eucalyptus, one type of tree, and bamboos. Okay, because only commercial values or economical value they found, because they are cutting down and only the usable or what are the things used for them, they started cultivating in the forest. They disturbed the forest, started disturbing. Because of this, people, like after British rule, and when establishment of the British rule, they may force them to do such type of activities, and outside people, outer world people started entering into the forest. And moreover, the laws passed by the Nizam government in the area under its control restricted the traditional customary rights of the tribal and forest users by classifying forest area as reserved and protected. Two terms are there. Please note it down. What is reserved and what is protected? Reserved in the sense the forest where forest in which no one could enter, that we call reserved forest. Okay, moreover, the laws passed by Nizam government divided forest into two, reserved and protected. You can expect a question, what is reserved forest and protected forest? Here, reserved and no one could enter into the forest, reserved forest. Protected forest could be used by people. They could take headloads of wood, headloads in the sense they can collect for like firewood, they can collect headload. Not like what we call trucks or vehicle or anything like entering into the forest and taking timber from the forest. That type of activities not permitted. So only a load of wood and small forest produce for their own use and could graze their cattle. Only like in the Nizam time, they permitted them to do headload. Headload is nothing but the carryable. It means how much like suppose firewood, how much they can bundle and carry, that much they can take from for their own use. As with tribes also, the same way they allowed animals for grazing. Okay, so these are the difference. First of all, reserved forest and protected forest, they allow people enter and collect some items, whatever they need for their own use, not for sell. Okay, so at the same time, reserved forest, no permission, that is fully protected. Okay, so but here too, there were many restrictions on cutting trees, grazing more than the limit set by the forest department. So they formed a department. Still, it's continuing. Forest department, you all know very well about the forest department. What are the restrictions we have? Suppose even we are living in cities or urban areas or rural area, wherever it may be, if we want to enter into the forest with permission only nowadays, we can enter as a wish. There is no protected or reserved forest. There is no permission to enter into the forest without getting pre-permission of the department. So this all about the forest and different types of forest. And as we know, a very large number of people lived in this forest and depended upon their use. The government at that point of time did not really care for them. One more. When the government had to define the area under forest, it treated most of the land used by the tribal as forest belonging to the government. This was because, unlike in plain villages which had village land records, most of the tribal cultivated land without any ownership record. In the northern districts of Telangana, the Gonds cultivated settled agriculture, while the Kolams, etc., practiced Podu cultivation on the hill slopes. Even the Gonds who practiced a more settled type of agriculture were in a habit of living lands, follow and cultivating alternate land in 2-year circle. The demarcation of reserve forest did not take notice of these practices and rendered many tribals without right and led to forced eviction. So what happens here, you see, what is the meaning of eviction? To force somebody to leave the forest, because forest department noticed that Podu is not permittable, because you know each and every society, even tribal people also, their population is increasing. Their needs are also increasing. If department allow them to cut down trees and do the Podu cultivation, like it leads to decrease the forest land. Okay, the government had to define the area under forest, and they have given some, like nowadays they have documents also for their own land. Government given particular land or permitted land to them, there only they can do cultivation. They have no permission to extend that land or extend the land for cultivation. Okay, lot of restrictions. And sometimes government force them to evict or move away from forcibly. They will give land outside, like a rural area or a plain area where we can see where outer world, outer people live. So these people forcibly sending out of the forest and ask them to leave outer world. Okay, it may leads, like if the forest department or government permits them to cut down trees and use the forest land, like in future the forest land may decrease, because you know like they are selling nowadays, they are cutting the wood and selling outside the outer people. So these type of problems facing. So when the government authorities or the forest department notice that, they forced them or asked them to evict from the forest or forcibly ask them to move away from the forest. Okay, finally, in one stroke, the tribal people were rendered homeless in their own homes. What is there? Rendered homeless from their own home. Where is their own home? Forest. But now what happens? Forcibly sending them out of the forest. That their mean. Okay, what? Were rendered homeless in their own home. To add to it, the government was eager to hand over the land to zamindars and cultivators from other areas so that they could settle down and cultivate the land and pay revenue to the government. Some areas, this government is appointing some persons like zamindars or cultivators. They will look after, and revenue, it means they should pay the tax. Tax in the sense the usable, like how much income they earn. 1%. The evicted tribal people had to work for these landlords now, or the person, the tribal people who send out of the forest, that tribal people, that tribe evicted, I have told you, forcibly sending them out of the forest, evicted forest tribals, we can say. The tribal people who send out of the forest, they should also had to work for these landlords, and they will get some income. Addition of that, government also get on the lands which the tribal people were allowed to cultivate. They had to pay very high revenue, like a tax, we can say. Often they had to borrow money from money lenders to pay this amount. So for cultivation, they should collect money from money lenders, who these tribal people, and it leads to give their product to these money lenders and get big loss. In the end, they had to sell off their lands to the money lenders. Thus they again lost whatever land they had. So these all problems nowadays. That land also taxable. Government is collecting amount from that land also, land tax. So under that circumstances, what happens here is these people, tribal people, get lot of trouble or lot of problem to repay the amount. Especially they are collecting for like cultivation or this cultivation activity. They are collecting money from money lenders. What is the meaning of money lenders? The money, they will give money to the farmers and they collect back interest with the actual amount. So they are unable to pay. So forcibly, at last what happened? This land also they may sell to the money lenders or rich people who are living in the outside. Okay, so this all about the money lenders case and their activities and evicted activities, we can say. It means forcibly sending. The forest department, which has established in this period, had the task of protecting the forest and planting new trees. What are forest department activities? What are that? It also had the responsibility of managing the harvesting of the forest, that is felling mature old trees and selling them to earn money for the government. See, some of the forest government activities. What are the government activities happening? Some trees, you know, their forest department, their harvesting of the forest, we call that harvesting, or what is that? The felling mature old trees, cutting and selling outside because it dry. Okay, there is no future for that such type of wood. So what they do, these people collect that wood and sell in the market. The forest department officials usually belong to distinct rich communities who regard one more point here. Forest department people, because you know these officers are all from rich families. They have no value. They have no value in this. They are not caring these tribal people. They are not thinking about these people. and regard the tribal people as ignorant and dangerous and had no sympathy for them. Okay, these people has no sympathy nowadays because you know these forest officers, they all from rich families it seems. Always ignore, forget about these people and no sympathy for them. They exploited the helpless tribal, cheated them and constantly harassed them, beating or like many restrictions. They are not allowing them to live in the forest even though. What is their aim? Evict or sending them out of the forest. In the name of forest conservation, large-scale evictions occurred in 1920s or forcibly sending 1920s for eviction. Once again, I'm telling, forcibly sending them out of the forest. Occurred in the 1920s, it seems, and mopping operations continued till 1940s. This created an atmosphere of unending insecurity for the tribal people. That is the situation now, because after 1920s, what happened? Like large scale, many tribal people, they send out of the forest, even without giving any other opportunities to them, sending out of it may lead for a conflict. Am I right? Yes. What that? Let us see. The tribal people protested and fought against this from the very beginning. Fought against the government. In some regions like Northeast, they were able to win some protections from the government. See, they started protest. What is the meaning of protest? It means go against the government rules. At the time, independence, our national leaders were debating whether it was better for the tribal people to be left alone, let their traditional life in the forest, or should they be made to adopt settled agriculture, modern education and industrial work. So even freedom movement also debate is going on, it seems, about these people, whether we have to allow them without giving proper education or proper agricultural modern methods. Okay, many things started because they started agitation or they started revolt or they started protest against British, the authority, especially against government rules, because government forced them to evict from the forest. And in 1920s, you already seen here, because they send many tribal people out of the world without giving any opportunity to them. So this also created some angry mode or mind in them, and they started protest against British rules or the government. Okay, not the British rules, the officers, which is related to the forest. Okay, so next here, the change from 1988 to 90. What changes happens in 1988 to 90? Okay, by 1988, the government had realized that, see, after 1988, after this all, 1998, what changes happened in the sea? The government had realized that the development of tribal people could not be thought of without giving them any right over the forest. What happens here? Without thinking about the forest, see, about the tribal people, the development of tribal people could not be thought of without giving them any right over the forest. They understood that the protection of the forest was impossible without the active role of the tribal. Okay, so realized that. What realized? Without proper protection of the tribal group, we cannot develop the forest. Okay, the National Forest Policy 1988 declared that the primary task would be to associate the tribal people with the protection, regeneration and development of the forest. See the terms: protection, regeneration and development of the forest. This is the proper way finally they found to improve the tribal people and moreover the forest area. It also wanted to provide gainful employment to the people living in and around the forest. The government sought to involve the village communities living close to the forest in their protection and development of the degraded forest, and it also described the right of use of the village community to meet their requirements of the forest produce and active participation in the afforestation programs. Okay, so all together they encourage these tribal people also join along with them and improve the forest area. Without their support, government finally thought, like, understood that without the tribal support we cannot develop the forest area. So they coordinate all the tribal people and all together work for the afforestation. Forestation in the sense planting plants. Deforestation opposite is afforestation, planting more plants, and that we call afforestation. Okay, children. So actually, I know as it is a textual content, you may get some boring. Am I right? Without any slide or something. So anyway, go through the chapter, read the chapter, and we will meet in the next session. Read the chapter once again, and the important terms you please note it down. Okay.
Good morning, children. Welcome to Sanvi Learning Services. This is your physical science class. So, in the last session, we discussed.
You may please start, ma'am.
Yes. Am I audible to you? Yes. Good morning, everyone, children. This is your physical science class. So, in the last session, we discussed metals and non-metals. How the metals and non-metals are categorized in the periodic table. Yes, there we learn about metals and non-metals completely, which are metals and which are non-metals, and what is their valency. Yes, so there we learn all the topics. Now we are going to start the physical properties and chemical properties of metals and non-metals. Yes. So first of all, we have to know the physical properties of the metals and non-metals. So wait here, I'll share the screen to you. So physical properties of metals and non-metals. We know already metals and non-metals are very important for us. Okay. So we know every matter. Okay. Every matter consists of atoms only. So here metals and non-metals nothing but atoms only, right? So here, look at some of the physical properties of metals and non-metals. We can generally associate the physical properties with the most common metal, that is gold. So we already completed this, but I want to revise this topic once again here. We know this coal or carbon, this is one of the metalloid, but it shows the property similar to the non-metal. Okay, so we can generally say that coal as a non-metal. Actually, this is a metalloid, but it shows a similar properties to the non-metal. Metalloid means the element have both metallic properties and non-metallic properties. So here coal also one of the metalloid, but it shows the similar properties to the non-metal only. Okay, so we regard this coal as a non-metal. And we can generally associate the properties of physical properties of non-metals with coal. Okay, the physical properties of non-metals we can associate with coal. Okay. So what is a physical state that we see in metals? We know the metals are solids at room temperature. Okay. The metals are solids at a room temperature. The only metal, mercury, okay, is the only metal which is present in the thermometer that is in the liquid state. Okay, that is, there is only one metal is in the liquid state, which is mercury. Rest all metals exist at solid state in the room temperature. Okay, all the metals are solids at room temperature. Only the exceptional case for mercury only. This is a liquid at room temperature. It will present in the mercury. Sorry, it will present in the thermometer. Okay. Now, what about non-metals? Here, the non-metals, if we consider the coal, it is in the solid state. Okay, generally we can associate the non-metals with the coal only. Here the non-metals, the sulfur, phosphorus are also solid state. Okay, the sulfur, you can see the sulfur here. This is in the solid state. But this oxygen, chlorine, nitrogen, these are the gases. They are also non-metals and they are in the gaseous state. Okay, so here some of the metals, non-metals, sorry, here non-metals. So some of the non-metals are in the solids or gases. Okay, some of the non-metals are solids or gases. And here also we have one exceptional case. The only exceptional case for one non-metal, that is bromine. Bromine at room temperature is in liquid state. Okay, here this is a non-metal, but this is a liquid at room temperature. Generally the non-metals are solids or gases. But here only one exceptional case, that is bromine in liquid state. For metals, generally metals are solids at room temperature, but only exceptional case for mercury, that is liquid at room temperature. Now, look at the physical properties of these metals and non-metals. The first one is a luster. Okay, luster means is a shine present on the elements. Okay, luster is the shine present on the elements. So we see in the metals, they are generally lustrous. All the metals are lustrous. So here, that is all the metals are having shining property, right? So here, why we use them for making ornaments? So it is because of this shining property. Here the aurum, we know aurum means gold. Okay, the symbol for gold is Au. Okay, here Au from the Latin word aurum meaning shining dawn. Here aurum, which is that the metals have lustrous. Okay, we know gold is one of the shining metal. Now come to the non-metals. So what about these non-metals? Non-metals in general, they have a dull appearance. Okay, they are not having shining property. Their looking appearance is very dull. Okay, the only metals have lustrous property, but non-metals, they are not lustrous in nature. Okay, remember this point. Metals have lustrous property, but non-metals, they have only dull appearance. There is no lustrous property for non-metals. You can observe here the sulfur, phosphorus examples. There is no shining property for these non-metals. Now, the next one is the hardness. Here, if we associate this with the metals, we must have seen gold. Okay, so it is strong and hard, except sodium and potassium. Here the sodium is a very soft metal. Okay, so generally metals are hard and strong, but the only exceptional case for the sodium and potassium, that means we can cut the sodium with the help of knife. Okay, it is so soft, it can cut with the knife. Okay, now here, what is this here? We know this is the diamond. This is one of the hardest substance. Here, a form of carbon is diamond. Diamond is one of the form of carbon, which is the hardest substance. Here, the non-metals. Generally, all the non-metals are hard or soft. So, because of this nature, because of the diamond nature, we know diamond is one of the hardest non-metal. And some of the non-metals are soft. So we can write these non-metals are hard or soft. We can observe this sulfur, phosphorus, these are soft in nature. But the diamond, this is the hardest known substance. So we can say non-metals are hard or soft. So now next one, look at here. This is a aluminium block. It is used in industries, which exist as in the form of big blocks. So the form of a block, aluminium block, we can get a very thin aluminium sheets. Okay, from this big aluminium block, we can get a very thin aluminium sheets. You can see aluminium foils, aluminium sheets, and tin sheets. Okay, so here, this aluminium block, from this aluminium block, we can get a very thin aluminium sheets. So this property of the metals, according to which we can beat them into very, very thin sheets, is known as malleability. Okay, when we beat them into very, very thin sheets, that is known as malleability. So from the big block of aluminium, we got this aluminium foils, aluminium sheets, and tin sheets. Right? This property is known as malleability. So this is one of the property for metals. But what happens when try to beat coal? Okay, what happens when you try to beat coal? Here, is there any possibility to shape coal whatever manner we want? No. When we break it, it turns into small pieces. Yes. So as we start shaping it, we can see that it breaks. We cannot shape the non-metals. Okay, we cannot shape the non-metals in which manner we want. So here, the malleability property. So the property due to which a substance can be beaten into thin sheets without breaking or cracking. Sorry, without cracking. Okay, the property due to which a substance can be beaten into thin sheets without cracking. This is known as malleability. Here for these metals, only exceptional case zinc and mercury. We cannot break this mercury into thin sheets. In which manner we want, we can't break it. Okay, so here this is one of the exceptional case for zinc and mercury. But remaining all metals have the malleability property. But non-metals, they do not have malleability property because we cannot shape them into different shapes. Okay, when we start shaping it, we can see that it breaks. Now, here the property, one more property here, the metals have the metals according to which they can be drawn into very thin wires. Okay, very thin wires. This is known as ductility of metals. Okay, this is known as ductility. This is also one of the property here. That means the metals, when we break them, they're drawn into thin wires. That is a property of ductility. So you can observe this is a copper wire. Okay. So here gold is also one of the metal, right? So gold is the most ductile metal. Okay, we can be drawn into very thin wire. That means a wire of about 2 kilometer length can be drawn from 1 gram of gold. Okay, from 1 gram of gold, we can make a wire of about 2 kilometer length. Okay, so here gold is the most ductile metal. So the property due which a substance can be drawn into thin wires without breaking. Here also one of the exceptional case for zinc and mercury. Yes, have you ever seen a coal wire? No. Non-metals are not ductile. Yes, we cannot draw them into very thin wires. There is no property, ductility property for non-metals. Now, the utensils that we use for cooking, yes, these are steel or iron. Okay, so you can see here steel utensils and iron utensils. Why we use metallic utensils? Because they have to transfer the heat to the raw vegetables that we keep inside, so they easily transfer the heat to the raw vegetables, right? So this is how cooking takes place. Okay, why we are using only metallic utensils means easily these metallic utensils transfer the heat to the food item which is there inside of the utensils. Okay, and similarly the base of the press here, this the base of the base of the press, it is made up of iron. Okay, so here the copper or aluminium labels are that we'll use in cable wires. Yes, so which are used for the conduction of electricity. So we have seen that these metals are generally good conductors of heat and electricity. Okay, so these metals are generally good conductors of heat and electricity. So the heat or electricity will pass very easily through metals. Then what about non-metals? Have you ever heard of coal electric wire cable? Electric cables? No, we don't. We haven't heard that word, right? So non-metals are non-conductors of heat and electricity. So here we observe the lustrous nature and malleability, ductility, yes, and heat and electricity. So all these properties are we observe for only metals. Now here, drop a metal coin on the floor and also drop a coal piece on the floor. Any difference? We'll observe any difference in the sounds? Yes. So when we drop a metal coin on the floor, we hear there is a very peculiar and prominent sound. Yes. But when we drop a coal piece on the floor, there is no peculiar or prominent sound produced by the coal piece. Yes. So we can see that metals are sonorous and non-metals are non-sonorous. Okay, metals produce a peculiar sound when we drop them on the floor, but non-metals are non-sonorous. Will not hear any peculiar sound from the non-metals. This is also one of the physical property of the non-metals. So here, look at here once, metals and non-metals, the properties. The physical state of this. The metals are solids and non-metals are solids or gases. Generally, metals are hard or soft. This is a soft here. Soft means here the mercury, that is one of the soft metal. Here non-metals are hard or soft because in this gases also will be present. Right? And hard means here the diamond. This is one of the hardest non-metal. The sulfur, phosphorus, they are soft and gases also present. So non-metals are hard or soft. And metals are malleable in nature. Non-metals are non-malleable. And metals are ductile in nature. They have ductility property also. Right? That means they can be drawn into very thin wires. But there is no property of ductility for non-metals. So they are non-ductile. And metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. And non-metals are poor conductors of heat and electricity. And metals are sonorous. Non-metals are non-sonorous. So these are the physical properties of metals and non-metals. Okay, these are the just physical properties of metals and non-metals. Very important. Note down all these points, students. Right. Now we are going to see the chemical properties of metals and non-metals. Right. So the chemical properties of metals and non-metals, I already explained in the categorization of periodic table. There I explained valency of the groups. 1A group, 2A group, 3rd A, 4th A, 5th A, 6th A, 7th A, and finally 8th A. So valency means the last shell electrons for an atom. Okay, so once look at here, the valency of electrons. Here the 1A group elements have one valency in the electron. For 1A group elements, the valency 1. And for 2A group elements, valency 2. For 3A group elements, valency 3. So these elements, okay, the 1A group, 2A group, 3A group elements lost their electrons to get stability. To get stability in the valency shell with 8 electrons, they lost 1, 2, 3 electrons. That means the 1A group elements lost 1 electron and 2A group elements lost 2 electrons and 3A group elements lost 3 electrons from the valency shell. So when they lost that electrons, they get stable. They are metals. The 1A group, 2A group, 3A group elements are all are metals only. So how they lost their electrons? I'll explain you later now. Now, here we have 5, 6, 7. That means 50A group, 60A group, 70A group. So these 50A group, 60A group, 70A group elements gain the electrons to get stability in the valency shell electrons. They gain the electrons. 50A group elements take 3 electrons, 60A group elements take 2 electrons, and 70A group elements take 1 electron. These are non-metals. Okay, and finally we have here 4th A group elements. So these 4th A group elements share the electrons. They do not lose the electrons or gain the electrons. Simply, they share the electrons to get stability. So these are metalloids. Okay, these are metalloids. So 4th A group elements means carbon, silicon, germanium, tin, lead. So we know carbon, this is one of the metalloid, but it will show the properties of non-metals. Now, so remember this. These are the valency electrons. So how they are losing and gaining the electrons, we'll see now here. So now, 1A group elements, they have valency 1. Okay, so these group elements, so what are the 1A group elements means? Here we have lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, francium. All these are the 1A group elements. To get stable 8 electrons in the valency shell, these elements lost this 1 electron. You can observe here, for example, if you are taking sodium. Sodium atomic number 11. The electronic configuration of this sodium metal 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s1. Here, the last shell is the 3rd shell. Okay, you can observe here. This is the 1st shell, 2nd shell, and 3rd shell. In the 1st shell, you have only 2 electrons. Here this is the 1 electron, and this is the 1 electron. And in the 2nd shell, this is the 2nd shell, 2s2, 2p6. Here, how many electrons are there? 2 plus 6, total 8 electrons. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. total 8 electrons are here in the second shell. And finally, in the last shell. So in the last shell, we have 3s1. So that is only 1 electron is here. So here we have only 1 electron. So this is the arrangement of electrons for an atom. So here Na is there, no? This is the nucleus. In the nucleus, neutrons and protons will be present. For every atom, okay, remember this point. For every atom, that means inside of the atom, electrons, protons, neutrons will be present. Inside of the atom, electrons, protons, neutrons will be present. Okay, here the neutrons and protons are at the center, that is nucleus. So when these neutrons and protons combine together, that point is the nucleus point here. And these electrons are there, no? Electrons revolve around the nucleus. Okay, in fixed orbits with certain energy. Now that one is not important here. Now look at here. So here, this sodium is there. So sodium have 11 electrons. So all the 11 electrons revolve around this nucleus. So in the last shell, we have only 1 electron here. So when the sodium element lost this 1 electron, it will stable with 8 electrons in the valency shell. Okay, it will stable with this 8 electrons in the valency shell. So that's why all the 1A group elements, lost 1 electron from their valency shell. Okay, for all the 1A group elements, the last shell contains only 1 electron. Okay, for all the 1A group elements, here we are talking about only 1A group elements. So all the 1A group elements consist only 1 electron in the valency shell. So to get stable 8 electrons in the valency shell, all the 1A group elements lost 1 electron. When they want to stable, okay, not in all the time, when they want to stable with 8 electrons in the valency shell, in the chemical reaction, they lost that 1 electron. Then that elements are stable with 8 electrons in the valency shell. So here, this is the sodium electronic configuration 2, 8, 1. So when they lost 1 electron, now here sodium becomes Na plus. You can see here the electronic configuration is now 2, 8. So now the valency shell have 8 electrons in the valency shell. So now, look at here. This is a chlorine. So chlorine belongs to 7th A group element. Okay, chlorine belongs to 7th A group element. So 7th A group elements are take the electrons. They want to take the electrons to get stable 8 electrons in the valency shell. They gain the electron, 1 electron, only 1 electron. All the 7th A group elements, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, and astatine. 80. Okay, astatine. So here, all these elements take 1 electron, gain 1 electron. Then that elements stable with 8 electrons in the valency shell. So once check it here. So here this is the first shell, consists of only 2 electrons. And second shell consists of 8 electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? Now in the last shell, only 7 electrons are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, this chlorine element wants 1 more electron. When it gains 1 electron, it will stable. So from where it will take the electron? Now it wants 1 electron. From where it will take that 1 electron? So here, this sodium loses 1 electron, no? Here sodium loses 1 electron. Now it becomes sodium plus. So chlorine will take that electron. Now it becomes Cl minus. That means not in all cases chlorine will take electron from the sodium. Okay, just when the chemical reaction happening between sodium and chlorine, then only the sodium will give an electron to the chlorine. Chlorine will take that electron from the sodium. That means here the chemical reaction present between these two elements here. In this case only sodium will give one electron to chlorine. Chlorine will take one electron from the sodium. Not in all cases the chlorine will gain electron from the sodium, or sodium will give lost their electron for chlorine. Okay, for the chemical combination only, here these two electrons share losing and gaining the electrons. So here what it becomes, sodium losing one electron here and chlorine gaining that electron. Now it becomes NaCl. So sodium chloride, this is a common salt that we use in our home. Common salt, NaCl, sodium chloride. Like this, the chemical reaction will take place between the elements. Okay, this is the NaCl, Na plus and Cl minus. This is the common salt, NaCl. Okay, so we'll discuss more about these chemical properties in the next session. We have so much topic is there. Yes, all of you complete your CW. Yes, children, complete the CW. I explained already how to complete the notes. So when you are listening the class, write your notes. Okay, or otherwise you can write from your textbook also. Okay. Yes, thank you. Thank you all of you.